All right, everybody. Well, welcome to the webinar called End Self-Sabotage in 2019 and Crush Your Goals in 2019. So we're gonna attempt to do both things in our webinar workshop today. And this is exciting too because we're launching this year a part of our online business model called the No Bullshit Online Training Series. And it really does bring the energy of like, how do we sever off the bullshit stories, the excuses, the complaining, the blaming, everything that is keeping us away from the things that we desire? Like, how do we have that no bullshit mindset so that when we go after what we want to go after, our own stories and our own BS doesn't get in the way? Because the only person powerful enough to stop you is you. So think about some of the goals that you have for 2019. Think about some of the things that you want to accomplish for 2019. Maybe you've got some health goals. Maybe you've got some business goals. Maybe you've got some career goals, some financial goals, relationship goals, whatever those goals are. The only person powerful enough to stop you is you. That's it. That's it. Let's end the call right there. Let's end it. Well, take care, guys. Happy New Year. Because it's interesting because when we're born, I have two boys, and I'll share a little bit about my background here in a moment. But I have two boys, and they are just like the light of my life. They have a ton of endless energy they have, and so they keep me on my toes. But they are so tenacious. For those of you who have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They are so tenacious in knowing what they want and figuring out what they need to do to get it. Whether that's crying or screaming or like being super cute, they'll find, and they're so flexible in their approach to get what they want, which is why they typically get what they want. Parents end up just like breaking and say, okay, here's your special treat or whatever it might be. And you have to remember that we all were born with that tenacity to know what we want and to figure out how to get it. So the tenacity still lives inside of you. The question is, how often are you activating it as you move toward the things that you desire to create in your life, some of the goals that you have for 2019. So maybe this year is an opportunity for you to reconnect with that tenacity, that childlike tenacity of, man, I know what I want and I don't give a shit what I look like in the process of getting it, but I'm going to get it. But then what happens is, as we grow older, we're 3, 4, 5, and we don't give a shit about whether people think about us, at that age. We're just like living and being totally authentic. And then this whole thing starts to settle in our psyche about, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm going to look foolish if I do that, or maybe I'm going to be made fun of, or maybe I won't be accepted, or maybe mom won't love me. And we start to create these stories right in our mind about, well, if I go after what I really want, what might happen. Versus when we reverse time and go back to 3 years old, like there was no questioning of what you were going to look like in the process. When Corbin, my second born, who's 16 months now, when he was learning how to walk, both of my boys, when they were learning how to walk, they weren't sitting there contemplating of, okay, I'm about to take my first couple of steps here. I got to make sure that I look cool for mom and dad. They weren't worried about, they weren't thinking about, okay, what if I actually never end up walking? They weren't thinking, they didn't have these programs active, but those programs get installed within our psyche at a very young age. And then those programs, as they become active, those programs then start to run the thinking patterns that we create and the emotional patterns, because every thought you think has an emotional equivalent associated to it. So for example, every thought you think right now has an electrical impulse in your neurology, and then there's a part of your brain called the hypothalamus, and it's like a chemical converter. It'll take the electricity from the neural pathways that were active, and it'll convert them into the biochemical equivalent, and it floods your body with what's called neuropeptides. And neuropeptides are the chemical equivalent of the thoughts that you were thinking that then flood through your bloodstream and fuse with the cells of your body. And then you feel that thought in the form of an emotion, of a feeling. And, and I learned that from Joe Dispenza. If you don't know Joe Dispenza, check him out. He's just a brilliant neurophysiologist, just a brilliant dude. And once I learned that, I started to realize that not only do my thoughts create my emotions, but also my emotions are influencing my behaviors. Are directly influencing my actions, my decisions, what I do and don't do. So we have to remember that, man, there's this whole cascade of events that's happening when we think about going after our goals, and we're going to cover some of that stuff today, why do we self-sabotage? I'm going to cover two really common dynamics of why we self-sabotage, and also what are some ways that we can set up ourselves to win in terms of achieving our goals for 2019. All right. So what I'm going to ask you to do, guys, if you're joining us recently, is to mute yourself so that I don't have to mute you, because I do want this to be very interactive. I'm going to be asking you some questions. In fact, my first question to you right now is, in fact, if you go to the chat box, there's a link that I shared up there. I'm going to share it again to download the PDF that we're going to be working from today. But the first question I want to ask you guys is, what are some of your goals? I want to hear from some of you. What are some of your goals for 2019? So who wants to share what you're going after this year? Come on, guys, get in here. Let's go. I'm fired up.
I'll start. This is Linda, and I don't have much of a voice. So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Linda.
So I am expanding my business to doing more coaching with people, and that's happened organically and had great success with my first ones. So it gave me the confidence to really expand it. And so I hope to have 6 more clients for the coaching side. And then the merchant services side of my business, I actually have a very strong goal to bring in another $3,000 a month. Awesome. With merchant services. And awesome. Health-wise, obviously, taking better care of myself.
Yeah. Cool. Right on, Linda. Thanks for sharing those. And notice, and we're going to walk you through the SMART model here in a little bit, but notice how they were all specific and measurable. Now, there's a big difference between having an intention and setting a goal. And this is for everybody. So Linda, thanks for sharing. I really appreciate it. There's a difference between having an intention and actually having a goal. The intention is more the ambiguous, the vague thing that you would like to accomplish. And this is what most people do for New Year's resolutions. My resolution is to be healthier. Brain is sitting there like, okay, well, what do we do? Right? My goal is to make more money. Okay. You know, and so if it's just a vague and ambiguous, there's intention behind that, and intention does hold some power. But as it relates to achieving and accomplishing your goals for the year, intention won't get you there. I promise you, intention won't get you there. According to statisticbrain.com, 92% of people will not achieve their goals or New Year's resolutions this year. And one of the biggest reasons why is because they don't formulate the goal in which that allows them to measure it. And it's not specific enough, so they don't know what actions to take. So it always stays an intention. It always stays a hope. You know, and one of my college football coaches used to always say, hey, George, you can shit in one hand and hope in the other and see which one fills up faster. And it's an important thing to remember, because we could hope our way all day long, but it's not going to create the results we desire. So one thing that we're going to cover is make sure that it's specific, that you can measure it, right? That you have plans of action to move toward it. Because as powerful as we are, you know, we can meditate and visualize all day long, but if we don't start to take action toward it and we don't make plans of action to move toward it, it'll always stay in intention. All right, so we'll get it out of intention mode and into specifics, into measurability, and all of that. Cool. Thank you, Linda. Who else wants to share? What's a goal that you want to achieve in 2019?
So I have a goal of more of a health goal of specifically losing probably about 80 pounds. I've lost 40 so far. I have another 80 to go. But it seems like once I get down to a certain level, I, in a sense, self-sabotage. I don't know if I tell myself I've done good enough. So that's why I'm really interested in kind of your self-sabotage on what's going on up here that's telling myself, hey, this is enough. I'm good, and backsliding versus continuing on.
Gotcha. Yeah. So 80 pounds is kind of the target of the amount of weight you'd like to let go of. Awesome. Yep. Yeah. So thanks for sharing.
I've been successful in business. I've been successful in marriage. I've been successful all around. It's just the health aspect I need to get kind of in control.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Anthony. So we'll dive into some of the dynamics that we're going to cover with self-sabotage. And I think something will light up for you there. So let's keep this conversation open, okay? All right. Anybody else want to share a goal they have for 2019?
Sure, I do.
Karen?
Yes. My goal is to walk the equivalent of 2 miles every day. It doesn't have to be done every day, but so I went into a competition with one of my friends, and he did it last year. And so together we're going to accomplish that
Nice.
for better health.
Awesome. So it's walk the equivalent of 2 miles, X amount of days per week kind of thing.
Right. And we're going to break it down into smaller pieces, into the months and that kind of stuff, so that we can stay competitive.
Smart. Love it. Karen, another Greatest Year of Your Life alumni up in the house. Are you coming again in 2019?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll be there.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you there. All right. One more. We have time for one more, and then we're going to dive into some of this content here. Who else wants to share? What's one goal you'd like to accomplish in 2019?
Hi, this is Jen. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jen.
Hey, I'm on headphones, so I don't know if
You're
it's
clear.
clear. I'm clear. Perfect. So one of the goals I want accomplished, I have so many that are all over the place, but that's my problem. But one of them is with health as well. I have a lot of chronic illness, and I deal with Lyme and some other things, and I've been treating it for the past couple of years, but I noticed that I self-sabotage in that area a lot. I don't take I don't follow the protocol like I'm supposed to. I don't follow the diet like I'm supposed to. And it's like, I know I don't do the self-care like I'm supposed to. And so I'm not seeing the results and getting better like I would like to. And it's crazy to me because it's like, I know what I'm supposed to do and I don't do it. And, I've talked about this with therapists and with my doctors about, is it that I'm not acknowledging really how sick I am and all of these things, but it's linked back to this self-sabotage. And, I've spent all this money. I've thrown,
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you I'm going to ask you to recap everything that you just mentioned.
Okay.
From a perspective of what side of the fence were you on? Were you on the side of the fence of empowering yourself to achieve this goal, or looking at all the things that you're not doing that keeps you stuck?
Yeah, I guess I'm on the fence of looking at all that I'm not doing that keeps me stuck.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of, is that working for you?
It's not.
So,
No.
I mean, part of the shift that we have to make is we have to, it's a game of focus. I mean, when it boils down to it, achieving our goals is a game of attention. Where are we placing our attention consistently? Because that's the direction we're going to move toward. There's a part of your brain, and this is something you'll learn at the Greatest Year of Your Life. There's a part of your brain called the reticular formation, and this part of your brain keeps an eye out for anything that you hold in your dominant focus. So a great example of this is anytime, have you ever noticed what tends to happen, or what you see more of when you get a new car? What do you guys tend to see?
Yeah,
more?
you see that car everywhere.
You see the same damn car everywhere you go. Isn't that crazy? Now, think about all the activity that happened before you started seeing all of those cars. You started doing some research online. You went to the dealerships. You started test driving some cars. You just thought about it all the time. Oh, what new car should I get? And you were thinking about it, focusing on it, placing your attention on it consistently over and over and over again. And then eventually your brain gets the message, oh, this is important. Find more of it. So anytime we're focused on what we're not doing, what's not going well, what should have happened, what could have happened, why we didn't do something, we're focused on the lack of the accomplishment of that goal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so that's part of the work that you want to do is shift. Anytime you feel yourself going into that lack mindset, shift back to say, well, what am I doing well? What is going well? I mean, it's a game of consciously and consistently paying attention to what your mind is focusing on. So I'll ask you the question again, Jen. What's one goal you'd like to achieve for 2019?
I don't know how to word it, I guess. That's interesting. I want to improve my health. So
Okay.
honestly, to just try to put as much of this in remission as possible.
Cool. Okay. So even when you say put as much of this into remission as possible, what side of the fence do you think you're on? And there again, I'm calling you out because
that's okay.
you know my style.
Yeah, I do. No, I love it. Yeah, I guess I'm still coming from that where I'm not fully um not committed, I guess is not the word, but yeah, I'm not all in, I guess.
Yeah,
There's still a part of me that's yeah.
and all it is a
Hmm.
pattern. It's just a pattern of looking for the lack in things. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just a thinking pattern. So when we get to the goal setting section, I want you to jump back in here, and I want
Okay.
to walk you through a process that I think will be useful for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But thanks for sharing. So so be thinking about how you might want to formulate that goal as we go through this content. Okay.
Okay.
So what a great example for all of us here, in that, are we focusing consistently on what's not going well, what we could be doing, what we should be doing, what didn't happen, what could have happened, and all of the lack of it? Or are we focusing our attention and giving our brain the data and the information it needs to move toward the achievement of the goal that we're setting? It's an important question to take a look at, because if you focus on what's not working, you're going to get more of what's not working. If you focus on what is working, you're going to start to see that show up. You're going to start to see that show up. All right, guys. So here, I'm going to change my screen here. I'm going to share with you my screen, and hopefully you have the PDF in front of you as well. All right. So everybody, you should be able to see my PDF document here. Can you see it? Okay, cool. So I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have had the experience of setting a goal, going after it, and then making some progress toward it, kind of like Anthony was talking about, and then finding yourself sabotaging your own progress in some way. I mean, everybody in the world has experienced self-sabotage, but many people don't know the dynamics of what's happening, because this is all unconscious. If you could consciously achieve your goals, like, you would have achieved all of them already. If you could consciously figure out how to achieve your goals, you would have figured that out already. But so much is happening on the unconscious level that people just simply aren't aware of. And I've spent the last 14 years of my life really honing in and focusing in on, like, what are the dynamics of the unconscious, and how can I influence and control my own psyche versus letting it, control and influence me. So we self-sabotage our own success. And the short answer is because of inner conflict. And there's all kinds of dynamics that go on when it relates to inner conflict. But that's essentially what's happening on the unconscious level. So I'm going to jump into some content right away, and I'll share a little bit about my background for those of you who don't know me. But I'm going to jump into these 3 priorities right away, because when I learned these from John Assaraf, when I learned these, they changed the game for me in terms of understanding my brain more effectively. And if we are to achieve our goals in 2019 and beyond, you have to become a student of how your brain works. You really do. You have to spend time, because it is the central part of how you operate, where everything stems from: your thought patterns, your belief systems, your value systems, your emotions, your behaviors, and ultimately your results. So if you can go through, most people go through their entire life not understanding how their brain works, not understanding how their brain is trying to help them, which sometimes seems like it's not helping them, and they don't understand these dynamics, and then they get so frustrated and they say, screw it, I'm not going after my goals anymore, because when I go after my goals, I don't achieve them. Or when I don't have to go after my goals, I self-sabotage. And then people just say, screw it, I'm not. And that's why people get so sour this time. Some people get excited, like me, I'm fucking pumped. But some people get so sour on the new year because of all the years they've racked up of setting an intention, or setting a New Year's resolution, or setting a New Year's goal and not achieving it, that over the course of time, they build this belief in their head that says, when I go after my goals, I don't achieve them. But the thing that you have to remember is your brain is central to every part of how you operate, and to understand it is an essential piece to achieving your goals. So let's jump into these three priorities. So the first one is safety and survival. Safety and survival. And this is straight from NeuroGym. Safety and survival. We have, I don't know how old our brain is, but it's an old piece of equipment that we've evolved over the course of time. But in the beginning days, when we were cavemen and cavewomen, think about it. We didn't have the dwellings that we have right now to protect us from the elements, to protect us from saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths and whatever was going on back then. We just didn't have the resources that we needed to to have a high level of safety in our life. So think about it. Think about like some of the places that we dwelled as cavemen in caves where there's like one way in. And so, if the saber-toothed tiger sees that, inside of this cave are some people that he can eat, like there's no back door, for you to run at. There's no front door for them to knock on and say, hey, is dinner open? So like we had to have a high level, like a high alert level to always be scanning for things that could kill us. And the part of our brain that controls that is the amygdala. It's the fear centers of the brain. It's the fight or flight response centers of the brain. And it's still part of our brain system. And so anytime that the brain anticipates change, for example, it's going to send off some red flags. It's going to send off some cortisol. It's going to shoot off cortisol into your bloodstream. But here's the thing. Anytime your body shoots off cortisol into the bloodstream, it's just there to shock you and grab your attention, to be alert, to say, is there any imminent danger here? But what tends to happen is people think about achieving their goals, right? People think about going after their goals. And then this safety survival part of their brain kicks in and says, wait a minute, is it safe? And then people start creating these stories, right? These unconscious stories about, well, I shouldn't go after my dream. I shouldn't go after my goals because it's not safe, or I might be ridiculed, or I might be made fun of, or I might look stupid, or I might fail, or I might not succeed. And all these stories come up about, what if sharks grow wings? What if dinosaurs come back? We create all these crazy, nonsensical stories in our brain just simply from a cortisol shot that's designed to just grab our attention to seek the environment. Is there any danger around? But no, we take it another step further. We receive that sort of cortisol shot, that sense of anxiety or fear, and then we create stories around it. And then we sort of like put ourselves in this bubble of our comfort zone, and we rarely leave that comfort zone in many cases. So first priority of the brain is safety and survival. The number one thing that your brain wants to do is keep you alive. And I say, go brain, because I like being alive. So, let's keep that priority in place. But let's also understand that when you think about going after a goal and then you get a little anxiety about it, that's your brain shooting cortisol in your bloodstream saying, is it safe, right? Is it safe to move forward? And more often than not, it is, because we don't have the dangers that we had back in the days of the cavemen and the cave women. We've got homes that we live in. We're far away. Most of us are far away from any kind of natural danger that the safety and survival part of our brain, we just take it one step too far. We start creating stories, and those stories influence our decisions and our behaviors, what we do and what we don't do. So you got to know the number one priority of your brain is to keep you alive, is safety and survival. The second priority of your brain is energy conservation. Energy conservation. And so I also want to invite you to be fully present with our training here, to really be fully present with the content that we're going over, because one of the ways that we self-sabotage is we distract ourselves. We have way too many things going on. Right now, we live in the information age where information is coming at you through your cell phone, through your laptop, through your computer, and through all the other ways that information is coming at you. And it's created this overwhelm culture. It's created this information overload culture. And what does your brain do when you go into overload? Well, it goes right back to safety and survival. It goes right back to getting back into your comfort zone, because that's where it's safe, according to your brain. So think about that. Think about all the information that you take in on a daily basis. How much overwhelm? This is a good question for you. How much overwhelm are you living in on a daily basis? And how much is that sabotaging your progress? Come on, it's getting good already. We're 30 minutes in, it's getting good already. How many of you are using overwhelm, information overload as a way to self-sabotage? Being distracted, too many options, and at the greatest year of your life, one of the things that we focus on is we make sure that we focus on setting 3 goals and what we call a comfort zone destroyer. So you have 4 goals that you set. So you don't have a list of 10 goals that you want to achieve, because you have a list of 10 goals that you want to achieve. Chances of you becoming overloaded. Okay. Link just posted again. So the chances of you becoming overloaded, when you have all kinds of information coming at you, that information overload is a detriment. All right. So you want to make sure that not only for this call to really hone in and focus in and be present with what we're talking about here, but make that a practice on the daily. You know, a lot of people talk about, well, I'm good at multitasking. You know, well, your brain doesn't enjoy multitasking. Your brain gets overloaded with multitasking, and then your energy depletes like crazy, and then you go back into your comfort zone and you just kind of hang out there. So number 2 priority is energy conservation. Anytime that you have a goal or something that you want to achieve that's outside of your comfort zone, when you're in the unknown, the brain exerts so much energy in learning and scanning. And when it exerts that much energy, we do have a limited resource of energy. And this is why health is so important, because it contributes to either heightened levels of energy or lower levels of energy. But priority number 2 is energy conservation. When you think of goals outside of your comfort zone and then you start to take action toward them, your brain is going to use a lot of energy. And at the same time, it's going to alert the priority number 1, safety and survival, to say, well, wait a minute, you've been outside of your comfort zone for too long. You've been wandering the unknown territory for too long. Is it safe? Are you sure it's safe? Cortisol, cortisol, cortisol. And then boom, that brings us back into our comfort zone. So number 1, safety, survival. Number 2, energy conservation. Recognize that when you're using a lot of energy, there's a good chance that your brain is going to say, hey, okay, time to bring it back, right? Let's get back before sunset. Otherwise, the monsters are going to come out. The creatures are going to come out. So this is your primitive brain at work here. And the 3rd priority of your brain is internal and external congruence. Internal and external congruence. And what that means is that you've already built sort of an internal model of the world. And your model of the world is stuffed with belief systems and value systems and judgments about the world and other people, that now your brain is looking for the data and the information that matches the internal structures of your model of the world. Does that make sense? So the beliefs that you already have, your brain is looking for the information that is congruent with those beliefs. So one thing you want to remember with that is, anytime new information is coming at you, part of your brain, there's an error detection system in place. And part of your brain is going to defend the information that contradicts the belief, so the belief can hold itself to be true. So if you have a belief that it's safe to be overweight, for example, and it's an unconscious belief that you have a belief that says it's safe to be overweight, anytime you think about or you start reading about information that contradicts that, your brain is going to defend it to hold itself in place. So these are 3 priorities that just changed the game for me when I understood them, and I started working with my own brain, my own psyche, to make sure that I wasn't allowing these priorities to stop me, but I was aware of them. So John Assaraf, he's one of my heroes. I started studying John in 2006 when The Secret came out. How many of you have seen the movie, the blockbuster documentary, The Secret? I'm guessing many of you have, and you probably have different opinions about it. I'm not here to talk about how good or bad The Secret was, but John was one of the stars in that movie, and I just really resonated with him and Joe Dispenza. I really loved, and so I just continued following them and learning from them and taking classes from them and trainings from them. And I saw John a few years ago at an event, and anytime I see masters at this level, like people just crushing it at the highest level, I turn into a student, and I'm like a reporter. I get my notebook out, I get my pen out, and I'm asking questions because I want to glean some of that wisdom from them. So I asked John at this event, because he was getting ready to speak. I was like, John, I know you got to go speak soon. I have one quick question for you. What do people need to know about achieving their goals that they don't know? And off the bat, he said it was simple. And this is on page 2. He said, we must learn to activate the motivational centers of our brain often, and we must also learn to manage and master the fear centers of the brain. He said, it's a lot like when you're driving and you press on the gas to move forward, but then you push in the brake, and now you've got this sort of jerky thing going on. So what we talked about is when you activate the motivational centers of your brain, and you do that by just simply thinking of a goal or a desire that you would like to have in your life, whether that's greater health, better financial well-being, growth in your business, whatever that might be, the minute you think about that, you release dopamine. which is a feel-good pleasure chemical. Hold on, we got another chat. Okay. No, I'm not going to repeat it. This is being recorded, okay? So you can listen to the recording. So the motivational centers of our brain kick in anytime that we think about, I mean, even on this call, as we're focusing on, okay, what are your goals? What do you want to repeat? What do you want to create, in your life? When you think about your goals, what tends to happen is you release dopamine, the brain activates the motivational centers of our brain. But then immediately, he said, George, immediately the fear centers of your brain are going to kick in, and it wants to know, is it safe? And so he said, you got to learn to activate the motivational centers of your brain often. And you got to learn to manage the fear centers of your brain as well. And for me, this totally changed the game for me. And it told me that if I just focus consistently on finding ways to activate the motivational centers of my brain by creating different ways that I can feel inspired and feel motivated to go after my goals. And then I can learn that anytime I feel cortisol or anytime I feel a sense of anxiety or fear, that's just simply my brain trying to keep me safe and alive. I appreciate that, brain. I appreciate you, I appreciate you. I got this skull. I'm protecting you up here. Then my nervous system going down my spine. I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate it, And so we have to learn to activate the motivational centers of our brain. And we do that by writing down our goals. I'm going to give you some examples here that are not on the PDF. So simply writing down your goals activates a neurological pattern that when you repeat that writing your goal over and over and over again, and this is something that we talk about the greatest year of your life and also my year-long program called the Transformation Academy. When you write down your goals consistently over and over and over again, the neurological pathway in your brain becomes stronger and stronger every time you write it down. And eventually, like we talked about earlier, the stronger that neural pathway becomes, it'll then trigger the biochemical equivalent, the emotion or the feelings of those chemicals fusing with our cells. So not only are we thinking being motivated, but now we start to feel inspired and motivated to then eventually start to take action toward our goal. So it is a game of attention. Write down your goal. If you took one thing from this call in terms of how you can crush your goals in 2019, it would be to get clear. And we're going to run through the SMART model here in a moment, but to get clear on what goals you want to go after, and then on the fucking daily, write them down. Just write them down. Write them down. But the mindset that people have that screws them over is, oh, that's not doing anything. There's no immediate gratification that comes with just writing my goal down. And it's true. There is no immediate gratification. The one thing you have to remember, get in here on this metaphor, guys. This is one of the powerful metaphors that I learned along the way that I share. But bamboo farmers, when they first plant bamboo seeds, they'll water and nurture those bamboo seeds. They'll give them sunlight. And over the course of the first year, you would think that bamboo would grow, but it doesn't. Nothing happens. 2 years go by, water, nurture, sunlight, nothing happens. 3 years go by, water, nurture, sunlight, nothing happens. But shortly after that, because what's happening is that bamboo seed underneath the ground is like spreading itself and grabbing onto the soil down there and rooting itself strong, because the minute it sprouts, it'll grow 60 feet in 90 days. It'll grow 60 feet in 90 days. And when it comes to writing down your goals consistently, people kind of know how powerful this is on a cognitive level, but they rarely practice it because there's no immediate gratification. So instant gratification or immediate gratification, the need for it is another way that we self-sabotage. Right? We're not going to do anything unless it gives us some sort of immediate gratification or some immediate result from it. And the most successful people, the ones who achieve their goals, are the ones who water the bamboo consistently. They do the work when they cannot see the effect of their work. They write down their goals. They visualize. They connect with their vision boards. Right? They do all these things and with zero instant gratification, but they know that they're just watering, they're nurturing it. And when the time is right, the action will be taken. The right people will start to show up. The resources will show up. So activate the motivational centers of your brain, and you do that. Like, there's so many ways that I do it. One thing that's very powerful for me is I do a video vision board. So I use iMovie in my Mac program, and I put a bunch of images in there of just like you would a regular vision board. All right, I put symbols in there, I put quotes in there, but I add music to it that makes it really powerful. And then I use it's in the other room, but then I use my my virtual reality, and I watch the video like up close and personal. So my unconscious mind is powerfully getting that information, and the music is sort of the conduit that's putting that data in. And this year by far was the most powerful year of my life in terms of achieving my goals, because I added that piece to it. I added that piece of virtual reality to it. So look into virtual reality in terms of achieving your goals. It's crazy. I'll share a story about that here in a moment. So what I want you to get here is activate the motivational centers of your brain and learn to manage the fear centers of your brain. Learn to manage the fear centers of your brain. And if there's something that you can do, the simplest thing that you can do to achieve your goals is, after you get clear, which hopefully you'll be clear on after our call, is to write them down daily. Write them down. I have what I call a gap, a daily gap that we use on our Transformation Academy. And every single day, I write my goals down. I write down 1 to 2 action items that are in alignment with that goal. And then there's a whole 5-part accountability system that we use. So accountability is another piece, another important piece in terms of achieving your goal. So let's talk about conflicting values. So there's just obviously I can't cover everything in a 90-minute webinar, but hopefully you get some nice tidbits and nuggets to move forward and have a great 2019. The next piece on conflicting values is, okay, so let me back up. The first way that we self-sabotage is what I just talked about, these 3 priorities of the brain: safety, survival, energy conservation, and internal-external congruence. We think about our goals, and then boom, we activate the motivational centers of our brain, but the fear centers of our brain want to say, okay, is it safe? And they pull us back. And so people self-sabotage when that cortisol hit takes place, because they just grab hold of it and they create these limiting stories and fears around it, and then they don't do anything. They say, well, I better stay here. It's more safe here. All right. So the other dynamic I wanted to talk about on our webinar here is conflicting values. Conflicting values. And so Anthony, this may resonate with you, but this one changed the game for me in 2011. So when I first started my company in 2009, in the first year, I fell flat on my face and I went bankrupt. Had to move out of my bed bug infested apartment and move in with my brother. I just felt like a failure after that. You know, I lived with my brother in his spare bedroom in his apartment, and I just was trying to figure out what I want to do with my life and my career, because I had failed. You know, in my head, I had failed at starting and growing a business. And so I started doing some research about, how I can go teach English as a second language in Mexico. So I literally started doing all the paperwork and filling out the application for all of that. And then right before I was like ready to send stuff in, something in my brain or something somewhere said, keep going. And there was something about that, not just the words, but the feeling I felt when I heard it, that said, okay, going to Mexico is my way of running away from feeling like a failure. And I decided that I was going to stick with it. So right after that decision, I had this beautiful download about these value systems, that they influence our decisions, they influence our actions. And I remember thinking, man, I looked back, and I want you guys to look back at your childhood, your upbringing. And I want you to explore the value systems that were installed at a young age for you. Like, what were some of the values that were instilled in you from a young age that could be sabotaging you, that could be conflicting with some of the values that your goals require you to have? That's right. Your goals, if values aren't aligned with your goals, you're going to self-sabotage. So growing up, Anthony, I don't know if this was familiar in your household too, but growing up, my parents, they loved their comfort zone. They love familiarity. They love certainty. They didn't want things to change, and they always wanted things to stay the same. And so growing up in that culture, growing up in that environment, in that family dynamic, I just simply adopted this value of comfort. And when I left for college to go to Northern Colorado, which was only 2.5 hour drive away, it was the most heart-wrenching, hardest thing that I ever had to do. I could see if I was going to New York or somewhere across the country, I was going 2.5 hours away, but I was, on my way to college, and I was crying, and I was like, am I making the right decision? I almost turned back and I almost went back home, but luckily I didn't. And so what I realized looking back at all of that is I had started a business, and the one value that your business needs you to have is growth. Your business needs you to grow. But I had a value unconsciously that said comfort is also important. So, like Anthony mentioned, I would take 2 steps forward and get a couple clients here and there. And then I would take 2 steps back and self-sabotage. And I did that over and over for an entire year until I just didn't have any more money. I was in the negative column and I had to claim bankruptcy. And it wasn't until I had that revelation of, I need to get clear on my values. I need to upgrade my value systems so that they're aligned with my goals, and I need to practice them. I need to practice them consistently so that I rewire them. So after that, I ended up hiring a business coach. And so I'm going to tell you a story about that here in a moment. But first, I'm going to ask you to kind of engage here in this question. All right. So if I asked you to go skydiving with me, I'm just curious, by a show of hands, for those of you I could see, how many of you would go skydiving with me? Or how many of you have been skydiving? So just kind of notice. And invariably, I ask this to a lot of my audiences. And what happens is it's usually about half and half. Half the people say, oh yeah, I'm going skydiving. The other half are like, hell no, I'm not going. Well, the minute I ask the question, there's a rapid series of events that happens in your psyche that brings you to the conclusion of whatever it is that you chose. And so what happens is, when I ask you, do you want to go skydiving with me? Initially, and this is this first blank piece here, initially your brain gets an image of what you associate skydiving as. Maybe it was you like free falling and like celebrating on the way down. Maybe it was you hitting the ground. I don't know what it was for you. But that's the first thing that happens is, do you want to go skydiving? Well, my association to skydiving is this picture. And then boom, the second thing that hits is it activates a feeling. The emotion of whatever image that you created activates. Those neuropeptides fuse with the cells of your body and you feel a sense of something. And for those of you who raised your hands and said, yep, I would go skydiving, you probably felt a sense of exhilaration, maybe excitement or adventure or something like that. And then what happens is, the minute you have that feeling, those feelings trigger your values and beliefs about skydiving. So for those of you who said, yes, I'm going skydiving, you probably have some value in there that says adventure is fun, or, the adrenaline is fun, or this is exciting, right? That's your value that connected to that activity. And you had some beliefs that activated as well. Maybe that skydiving could be fun or whatever it might be. And then all of that activated your decision. All of that triggered the decision that you made of, yes, I'm going skydiving, or no, I'm not going skydiving. Does this make sense? So what happens is that your decisions unconsciously are being driven by your unconscious values. And if you don't know what your unconscious values are, it's time to explore and elicit them and take a look at them, because they're running the show. They're driving your every decision and your every action. And if you grew up with any kind of value around comfort or security, but you're realizing that you're needing to change, it's a direct conflict with that value. So growth and comfort are opposed. Change and comfort are opposed. So what many of you are bumping up against is, oh, shit, I've had this old school value for a long time and it's been pulling me back. It's time that I lean into adopting change or adopting growth as my new value system. That's right. That's right. We have a chat here. Let's see here. Awesome. So let's take a minute, just let that settle in. Does anybody have any questions on what I've covered so far? Is it making sense? Is it resonating with you? So at the greatest year of your life, we have an entire session dedicated to helping you design, where are mine? They're in the other room, your pillars of alignment. Your pillars of alignment are the new value systems and your own personal definitions that go with those value systems that are in alignment with your mission, vision, and your goals. And it's a session we call creating unwavering internal alignment. Think about it, when your values are in alignment with your goals, you can become unstoppable. And this is how every single year just gets better and better for me, because I keep continuing to find more alignment with my mission, vision, and my goals. And you can too. I'm not special. I'm not different. I'm just willing to do the work. And you got to be honest with yourself, just in terms of how committed are you to doing the work. Because, John Astor had a famous quote. He said, you're either interested or you're committed. And if you're interested, you'll do what's convenient, which is where most people land in terms of achieving their goals. But if you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes. So you got to ask yourself, are you interested or are you really committed to achieving your goals? And one way you can end self-sabotage is to get your value system and your beliefs aligned with your mission, vision, and your goals. All right. So when you think about, losing weight, for an example, when you think about shedding those pounds, what value system is conflicting your desire? What value system is conflicting your desire? All right. So those are the two primary dynamics that self-sabotage us. So now let's go down to this goals clarity exercise. And this is going to be a time for you guys to do a little bit of introspection, a little bit of writing. But this goals clarity exercise is a simple way to increase clarity on what goals might be valuable and important for you to achieve this year at Greatest Year of Your Life. And you can learn more about our event. It starts January 11th. It's 3 days, and it's fucking amazing. But you can go to gyoil.com. We invite people to focus on their top 3 goals to avoid overwhelm, because if you hit overwhelm, you're screwed. If you hit overwhelm, you got cortisol, you got anxiety, and the brain is like, okay, retreat, let's get to safety. So we have you focus on 3 goals. And you got to know yourself. Some people need more than 5, 6, 7 goals to focus on for them to be productive. You just got to know yourself, and you got to be honest with yourself. So your top 3 goals are the primary goals you're aiming for this year. These goals are meant to stretch you and expand your comfort zone. Somebody once said that comfort zones are great, but nothing ever grows there. So what are 3 things that if you accomplished would make this year the greatest year of your life? So as you ponder that question, and before we start to gain more clarity on your top 3 goals, let's do just a really quick assessment of these key areas of your life to see what goals might be meaningful and important for you to look at. So of these 12 areas of your life here, what I want you to do is take a moment and rate them in 2019 on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like super high quality, you crushed it in this area of your life, or 1 being, man, you suck, you got work to do here. So take a moment and just go with the first number that comes up, with physical health. What's that number? It doesn't have to be perfect, but just ballpark it. Just get an idea of how you're currently performing in that area of your life. Be honest with yourself. Like having a no bullshit mindset means being real, sometimes dickhead honest with yourself. Whatever that means, right? Mental, emotional health, scale of 1 to 10. Business, career. Finances, family. Network, friends. Don't overthink it. Just kind of go with that first gut response. Partner, love, personal growth, spiritual growth, creativity, fun hobbies, physical environment. All right, so here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to pull somebody from our virtual audience here and kind of walk you through this piece as well as the SMART goal setting part of it. so that somebody can see kind of a demonstration or an example of how this can help you. So does anybody want to volunteer and go through this process with me? And now's the time to do it. So this quick life assessment here is just an opportunity for you to see how did I perform in this area, and also should I formulate a goal around it for 2019? Like if you're, for example, a couple of you said in terms of your health, is your physical health at a 4 or a 3? Maybe it's time to formulate a goal around it. Maybe your finances are super low, or maybe you're crushing it in all of these areas, and now it's time to really enhance certain other areas of your life. So for me, most of these areas I'm just crushing at this point. But the area that I really want to activate this year is creativity. So one of the goals that I formulated around recognizing that the creativity part of my life is kind of low is I'm going to learn to play the piano this year. So and we'll walk it through the SMART goal model here in a minute. But that's one goal I decided to formulate based on this life assessment. Like if you're not having enough fun, maybe it's time to set up a fun goal, So utilize this assessment to help you formulate your top 3 goals for the year. And on the next page, we're going to uncover and fine tune it by designing our top 3 goals aimed at improving those areas of our life. So let this exercise help you gain clarity on what goals to shoot for, and if you aren't already clear. So let's look at the SMART framework. And this is, if you haven't heard of the SMART framework, I'm very surprised. It's very common. And it's very simple because I think it offers the most important dynamics of measuring a goal and going after it. So you've probably heard about it, but this is a slightly different version. So we use the SMART model because of the metrics that it provides. So S stands for specific. Is it specific enough? And more importantly, what evidence will you use to determine whether you accomplished it or not? M stands for measurable. Can you measure progress? What specifically are you measuring? So for those of you who have, weight loss goals, you're measuring pounds. For those of you who have activity goals, you're measuring days checked off of activity, something that you can measure by. So this is where it's a slightly different version. Instead of saying, most SMART models use the word attainable, but we use the word awesome. Like it's got to light you up. It's got to inspire you a little bit at least. It's got to light some fire in you. It's got to feel not only like a little bit scary, but it's also got to light you up and feel awesome. A good example of this was last year. So many of you don't know, I have a corporate speaking model where I do a lot of keynotes and presentations for conferences and whatnot. And one thing that I thought would be cool last year in 2018 was to set a goal to bring 5 breakthrough type of experiences to my corporate speaking engagements. And so typically in those speaking engagements, it's more or less content and certain exercises. But what I wanted to do was like bring in board breaking or bring in a fire walk, And it was April, and I had written down this goal all the way through April 9th. And then on April 9th, I just decided that I'm just not fired up about this, And there's a point in time when you got to take a look at, are you not fired up about it? Or is there some fear or anxiety that you're avoiding stepping into? And for me in that instance, it was I just wasn't fired up about it. So that's when I shifted my goal from, book 5 breakthrough experiences with my corporate clients to booking John Assaraf for the Greatest Year of Your Life 2019, our 3-day conference coming up here January 11th. And so as I started writing down that goal, I just felt so excited about it. And I immediately started taking actions to make that happen. I'm part of his Facebook community, so I started being more active in there and grabbing his attention. And I started doing a lot of things that started to move me in that direction. And it was because I just felt so excited about it. So check in with the goals that you want to achieve. Are you excited about it? Does it light you up? And eventually, I think it was in November, we finally booked John Assaraf. And through a series of events that happened, it was pretty cool to see that happen. All right. R stands for relevant. Hey guys, if you got some noise or anything like that, just mute yourself, please. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
in this instance for this guy is specific, measurable, awesome, relevant, time bound.
Keep going. Keep going, ma'am.
Awesome, huh? Is it something you're fired up about? If it's not something you're fired up about, you're not going to do it.
I'm sorry, who is that talking right now?
Logic to that. However.
Hello? Who is that talking right now?
Oh, good God.
Hello? Who is that?
Oh, I need to know.
Okay.
According to this, it's Shelley.
Unfortunately.
Okay, Shelly, can you hear me?
Have to have goals that.
Fuck it. I'm going to mute her. Okay. Thanks, Shelly, for the recap. So relevant. Is it relevant and in alignment with your mission and your vision? And time bound, does it have a target completion date? So I would avoid using words like deadline, for obvious reasons, but does it have a target completion date? And usually with these kind of New Year's goals, it's by the end of the year, but it doesn't have to be. All right. And so all of these just provide simple metrics that allow us to measure progress as we move forward toward that goal. So, for example, let's say that somebody has a health goal to lose some unhealthy weight. Their goal might be something like to weigh X amount by the end of 2019 so I can be my most energized self. So if you run it through the SMART model, it meets all the components. So potentially for some of you, so I had a goal in 2017 because I was at 185 pounds. I was just 15 pounds overweight. I wanted to lose that 15. So my goal was to weigh in at 170 or under by the end of the year. And so for me, focusing on, instead of losing the pound, focusing on the pounds I wanted to lose, focusing on the target weight that I wanted to be at so that I could tap into the energy of that made a big difference for me. So something to consider. So along with a plan of action, so obviously you can't just set a goal and do nothing. You have to have a plan of action, and you've got to be willing to go after it and do whatever the fuck it takes to make it happen, as long as it's ecologically, meaning it's not going to like screw your dynamic of your life over. Like, so for example, you say, I want a new career, and you live in Colorado, and the new career that you want is in New York, but you got a family at home, and you may want to consider that before moving to New York and leaving your family for the new job. So make sure it's ecological for you, it's ethical, that nobody's going to get hurt as a result of it, and it's moral. So this framework will help you organize your goals in a way that sets you up to win. All right. So now let's start getting into the fine tune of this. And hopefully this is helping you kind of think through some of the goals that you want to go after. And we'll get fine tuned here. Okay. So goal number one, in fact, take a minute, guys, and just kind of read through this. I'm going to go grab my alignment guide. I'll be right back. So I want to show you this because this is where this is kind of the core of my year. So at the top, you can see my theme for the year is the year of generosity and creativity. Now, I took it even a step further because the more we remind ourselves of what's most important to us, the more likely we're going to make decisions and take actions in alignment with that. So one of the things that I decided to do is there's this company called myintent.org. And you can fill out a form and have them write down, if you can't see it, the word says generosity. And they'll create this little bracelet for you that you can put on, and you can have it say anything that you want, really. But this is a tool that I use so that every night I take it off, I'm looking at this pillar of alignment. Every morning when I put it back on, I'm looking at this pillar of alignment. And it's just reminding me over and over and over again. So the more places you have to remind you of your pillars of alignment and your goals, the more likely you are to think about them. And the more you think about something, the more likely you are to feel about them. The more you feel about something, the more likely you are to take actions in alignment with them. So that's my theme for the year. And this is something that we created, the greatest year of your life is your alignment guide. And so as you can see, on this side that's my mission at the top. And then we create something called your vision story. Those are my top 3 goals right there. I don't know if you can see them, but I am going to read them off to you, just to give you some ideas about how you might formulate your goals in terms of using the SMART model. So the first one is to learn to play the piano. And when I first came up with this goal, learn to play the piano, obviously it's not specific, it's not measurable. So I had to come up with a way to measure it. And so the target for me, which like lights me up and scares the shit out of me at the same time, is to create a musical like piece. I don't know if that's like the official name for it, a piece, but learn how to play the piano so that I can sort of like create my own song, so to speak. All right, so that's the target. That's the measurability piece of it. And then the second question that you can see on the sheet here is you want to tap into your why. And I definitely will want a volunteer to go through this exercise because it's very powerful. You want to know why. What will achieving the goal allow you to feel, have, or experience? So when I took myself through the process, number one is to tap into my creative power. Number two is to develop a deeper connection with my creative source. And number three, to inspire and uplift people in a new way. So those are the three reasons why. My second goal is to start a nonprofit organization for Callan and Corbin, who are my two sons. And the measurability part of that, I mean, that's easy. Anybody can start a business. But what I wanted to really have something that will challenge me is to execute 3 events of kindness. So what the nonprofit will do, it'll be called the Fox and Flash Foundation, because those are their middle names. But the Fox and Flash Foundation will have like events where we go to a children's hospital and we do different activities with them to uplift them and inspire them. And I just have a huge place in my heart for kids now that I have them. And I want my boys, and this was part of my why, and I get emotional thinking about it, but to really teach them the power of helping children in need at a very young age. Another important one is to break any entitlement patterns that they may develop over the course of their youth. Like that's no entitlement, just doesn't live in my world. So my kids will not be entitled. And that's one way that we're going to break it from them is have them be of service and help other people versus thinking that, they should get anything that they want without working for it. So totally shift their mindset. And then to develop leadership skills within the boys at an early age. So this one really fires me up from a deep heart level. And I'm super excited to move toward this one. My third goal is to grow my no BS mindset email list. So you guys are part of my no bullshit mindset email list so that I can contribute and add value to people's world. And also this goal number 3, it has like 2 goals in it. The second one is to write and publish my 4th book, which will be called The No Bullshit Mindset. And then the why under that is to positively impact more people and expand my mission and vision, to give first and add value to potential clients and customers, and to further contribute to a long-term and sustainable business model. And then my comfort zone destroyer, this is something that we talk about more at the greatest year of your life, but it's kind of that you may have heard the term BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. Maybe you've heard that term before, but essentially that's what it is. It's a BHAG. It's like this huge goal that you want to achieve that you almost don't even believe it's possible, but you're going to write it down and you're going to, make and take action toward it anyway. So I've got a couple of financial goals that are there to increase my total assets to $500,000 and to generate $350,000 in sales in 2019. So those are my goals. And what I would love to do, and on the back, I have all of my pillars of alignment, everything that we talked about, the values that we talked about, the values and the definition. So these are all of my pillars of alignment and my own personal definition of them. So the story that I wanted to share with you real quick before we jump into this goals piece is in 2011, when I decided not to move to Mexico, I decided to commit fully to growing my business. And I remember I was out networking and I was at this event and there was this woman who was speaking on social media. And I thought the information was pretty cool. And after she was done speaking, everybody was kind of mingling and networking. And I'm talking to this guy, Matt, and Matt and I are having this conversation. And Ingrid is her name. She comes up. She was the speaker. And so she comes up to us afterward and introduces herself. I'm like, hey, Ingrid, this is my friend Matt. Matt, this is Ingrid. She's a social media coach. And Ingrid kind of gave me a dirty look. And she's like, I'm not a social media coach. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. What do you do? She said, I help people become celebrities in their industry. And I was like, oh, shit, let's talk. And so we got on the phone a couple weeks later, and for 30 minutes, she was telling me about kind of the work that she does with her clients. And, I was at the point where I knew I needed some help. I needed to hire a coach and a mentor. And if you don't have coaches and mentors, you need to get your ass one, because the people who end up achieving their goals are the ones who have that kind of support, have that kind of skin in the game. And so as we were sitting there, I was getting super inspired about, working with her, and I could see the vision for my business growing. And she asked me, she said, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, "No, well, other than, what's it going to cost?" She said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She said, "It's $10,000. And my balls shrunk. Literally, like I felt my balls shrink. And the immediate response that came after my balls shrunk was, Ingrid, I can't afford that. But that was my body going into a contractive, remember, priority number one, safety and survival. That was my brain going into a contractive safety and survival response. And then my communication was, I can't afford that. And she called me out. Like, my favorite coaches are the no bullshit coaches. They call you out on your shit, right? They don't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you what you need to hear. And she said, "George, this is your block." She's like, "You're used to looking at your bank account," which I only had $1,400 in my bank account at the time. She's like, "You're so used to looking at your bank account and making decisions to, for your business based on that, versus making a decision and trusting that, number one, that you're powerful enough to create the results that you desire. And number two, that the universe has your back." So the word that she used was the word trust. And the pillar of alignment that I decided in 2011, after I recommitted to growing my business, was faith. Kind of the same thing, having faith in myself, having faith in the universe. And the minute she called me out on it, she's like, I said, "Oh, shit, man, she's right." And so, because I had decided to live in alignment with this new pillar of alignment called faith, I had to make the decision to trust that somehow, some way, I would find the resources, that the people would show up, and that I would do the work. And then within 3 months, my business had tripled. I was just blown away. And I realized the power of having a mentor. I realized the power of having somebody in your corner who's going to call you out on your shit and see the greatness in you. And so, my balls unshriveled and made the decision to work with her and put down $1,000. And then, like I said, 3 months later, my business tripled, and I really haven't looked back. And I've had a lot of ups and downs since then, but I realized the importance of having a mentor. So that's how powerful these pillars of alignment can be. When you say that, for example, when I say that generosity is going to be important for me this year, and I defined it as, I give abundantly without attachment of getting something in return. I give unconditionally my time, energy, and love and resources to support individuals and organizations that I can bring value to, who also bring value to the world. When I read this daily and I commit to saying generosity is a core value or a pillar of alignment that I'm going to operate by this year, over the course of time, it gets installed. It gets wired into your neurology, and then you start to just simply naturally make decisions based on these pillars of alignment. So it's a very powerful process that we go through on day one at the event. And it's crazy how much alignment can happen once we have these in place, and we're making decisions based on these alignment pieces. So on this last page here, goal number one, here's where I want to invite, is there somebody who would like to kind of go through one of your goals, fine tune it, and then go through this process of understanding your why? Anybody want to jump in?
This is Jen. I'll do it.
Let's do it,
Nobody
Jen.
else won't. All right.
Let's do it, sister. Okay. So, hey, will you keep talking for a minute? You were a little choppy there.
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay.
I might not have the best service where I am, so maybe more. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hold
Let's.
on. Yes. Is this better?
I think so. Well, let's just keep going.
Hello?
And then, yeah, let's keep going. And
Okay, sorry.
okay, that's okay. Okay, goal number one. So as we've gone through all that content, what is goal number one for you?
So it's to, gosh, that's the problem. I don't know. It's a health goal. My health goal.
Okay.
So improve my health.
Boom.
But it's definitely not a SMART goal right now.
Yeah. So all we're looking for initially is just that simple intention, because that'll help us formulate it. So to enhance your health or have greater health, right? Okay. Can you hear me? Jen, are you there? Oof. All right, Jen, I'm gonna take a left turn here, and I think because
Hello?
you're
Can you not? Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that.
that's okay. That's all right. Okay, is there anybody else here that'd like to go through this process? It's quick and it's easy, very revealing, and I think it'll help you refine. So Jen, let's make sure and touch base later or at the event. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You sound clear now. Anybody else want to jump in?
Hi, George. This is Julie Kramer. How are you?
Hey, Julie, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. So my goal is very specific and very clear. So I think we can go through this very quickly.
Oh, nice. Thank you for volunteering. So what is the goal?
Absolutely. So my goal is to give birth to my healthy baby boy in April.
Oh, I love it. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so when you run through the SMART model, it's it's interesting because there's a sort of an innate intelligence in your body that will know what to do, but that intention is very powerful to have. Do you have another goal
It
that you like?
absolutely is, especially when I miscarried a year ago.
Oh, wow.
So I can definitely experience in my body the clarity, and everything that you've talked about on this call thus far has just been so magnanimously in reflection and true of everything that you've been saying. And I'm, a businesswoman and have an entrepreneur, have my own multiple businesses, and it's been fabulous. But this is the first time I've actually gone inward and manifested something that truly is realistically out of my control. But with everything that you've been talking about with the brain, it just shows how, when you're really clear, just like you've stated, how clear that is. If you would like a second goal, the second goal is that I am needing to complete the probate process of my family's estate by June 12th, which is the 3-year anniversary date of my mother's passing. And there's a liquidation of a property in Hawaii that I am going through in that process. So that is my second goal.
Okay, gotcha. So you have a specific date set up. There's so let's just run it through the SMART model. So is it specific enough? Will you have evidence of knowing this is complete?
Absolutely. That property will be sold and the will be read, and the disbursement of the will follow per the will to my brother and I.
Awesome.
So that will be a celebration day, and we'll all be able to move forward with our lives.
Awesome. Okay, measure. What are you going to measure along the way?
Measuring, so the first step, I've been able to rectify, I've been able to stabilize the property from being a complete hoarded out mess out there in Hawaii, which is where my brother has been living. And so it took me a couple of years. The first year was to empty out the property and clear it out. The second step was to get him to a place where he was able to realistically move back in and manage the Airbnb out there while I'm here in Colorado. And now the third step is to liquidate it. It's the necessary step. We've taken other possibilities into consideration. So at this stage in the game, the first step is to hire an ancillary lawyer out there in Hawaii, and then really just go through the steps and the stages of what they are requiring.
Okay, cool. So a lot of times, guys, goals are broken down into smaller goals or smaller projects. So have you listed out all the different projects that will make up the completion of the overall goal?
That's what I'm doing right now. And it's basically the steps have been what I just outlined. So the actual ancillary probate process is basically going to be that the state of Hawaii with a lawyer is going to move in and start listing the house and getting it sold. So it's just that whole process that I'm not actually sure that I'm in control of or need to understand. I've pretty much stabilized the property from being taken over by the state and by the bank in foreclosure.
Okay,
So,
so the question is, you know what you're measuring between now and June 12th?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Is it awesome? Does it light you up when you think about achieving it and accomplishing it?
Oh, absolutely, because I'll be able to move forward with my life and raise my son and live my life without feeling the attachment and the responsibility of this. So my brother has his own life, and I did not inherit his life when my mother passed away. So it's although he wants to think differently. So no, I am completely clear and ready to detach and let go, release, and just allow the natural process to take place.
All right, great. Is it relevant? Is it in alignment with your overall mission and vision?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because my mission and vision is very aligned with yours as far as empowerment and also teaching people about the brain that they came here to this planet to experience such that they can realize the life of their dreams. And so I'm so ready to move on with my life. This is just been it's just that piece, that puzzle piece. Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so here's what I'm going to invite you to do, and we might go a little bit over on time today, guys. Here's what I want to invite you to do is I'm going to ask you a question, and it's going to sound similar, but I want you to just keep tapping into the deeper layers of it, okay? So just take a deep breath in.
Okay.
And kind of get out of your headspace and get down into your body, get into your heart, get into your guts. And so question is, what will achieving this goal in just a simple word or a short phrase allow you to feel or have or experience? Just trust your gut.
Integrity.
Cool. Taking a deep breath into that space of integrity. By having that integrity, what will that allow you to feel, have, or experience underneath that?
Fulfillment.
Good. Taking a deep breath into that fulfillment. What will achieving that fulfillment or having that fulfillment allow you to feel, have, or experience underneath that?
My soul's design.
Taking a deep breath into that. And is there anything else underneath that?
No, I'm clear.
Yeah, cool. So that's the why. And so it's important for all of us. It's important on one level to have the specifics, the measurables, the whole SMART process, but also tap into the guts in our heart of like, what are the deeper emotional reasons of why we want to accomplish it? Because I mean, when we attach and bring in the emotionality around why we want to achieve something, it makes our desire much more powerful in going after it. What's one action you can take after this call, if any, Julie?
Oh, it's going into my email, extracting the 3 attorney addresses that are contact information of the attorneys, and getting on the phone with them and just interviewing them who I want to use and moving forward.
Awesome. You are clear. Yeah, this is going to get done. In fact, this is done. It is already done. And that's thank you for volunteering. I think that's going to be helpful for a lot of people listening on the recording and here live, just to kind of hear kind of the steps that to getting clarity on not only the mental part of achieving our goals, but also tapping into the emotional sense of why we want to achieve it. So thanks for sharing that. So
you're so welcome. Thank you, George.
Are you still living in Colorado?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we met, probably right at the beginning when I was starting my business. I think I remember.
Yes. And I'm so happy for you. And I'm just congratulating you and how far you've come and grown, and really excited to just plug in today. It's just a really perfect timing for my life as well.
Oh, good. Hopefully you'll join us at Greatest Year of Your Life in January if you're not already there. And for those of you who are looking for an environment where one of the biggest things is after we wrap this up, like you'll be clear on the certain dynamics of things that are sabotaging you internally. You'll be clearer on your goals, and you might even have an action to take on each goal. When you engage in the journey, inevitably what's going to come up are the internal blocks that show up, the fears, the limitations, the limiting beliefs. All of that stuff is going to show up along the way. And the question is, do you have a support system? Do you have a place where you can move through those? I was talking to a family member recently, and we're talking about therapy, and she's recently started to get therapy for the first time. And I was telling her, man, I've been getting therapy since I was probably 28. I always have therapy or coaches or somebody to help me move through the emotions that come up. If I can't do it myself, somebody to help me move through them. Because if we don't move through them, then they're going to continue to stop and self-sabotage. And that's one of the other ways that we self-sabotage is we feel this like fear, a failure or fear of whatever it might be, and we do nothing about it. And so whatever your goals are, like as excited as you can get about them, as motivated as you can feel about them, if you don't move through the fears that are in the way of you accomplishing them, like you'll stay stuck. And that's one way that people self-sabotage. They just don't have the tools or the support or the strategies to overcome whatever those fears are. So what I would suggest you guys do after our webinar here is just get clear on what's the goal. Make sure it fits the SMART model. Also tap into the why of why do you want to achieve this goal? What's it going to help you have? Because everything that we want, guys, everything that we want is simply a result of or the belief that we're going to feel a certain way when we achieve this thing. So, Anthony, I don't know if you're still there. Like, what will losing 80 pounds, what will achieving that allow you to feel or experience? What will you feel as a result of that? That's a question you want to explore for yourself. And for each of you that have...
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. So yeah, I'm curious, what is the feeling that you believe that losing 80 pounds would give you?
I think self-confidence. Self-confidence is one of the big ones. One of the things that I do want to be able to do is be able to just walk into a normal store, whether it be Target, Kohl's, and just purchase clothes right off the rack.
Yeah, cool. So confidence. So if you can practice feeling that sense of confidence, and even diving into some of the deeper emotion about why that's there. So can we play a little bit on this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just kind of get into your guts. Take a deep breath in. And by having that confidence, what would that allow you to have underneath that?
Underneath confidence. So once I gain, you're asking, so once I gain confidence, what will blossom from that?
Yeah, well, what will that allow you to have once you have that confidence underneath that? What's the word or phrase that comes up?
To me, I just think of vitality.
Nice. And when you have that
Healthy.
vitality, what would that give you underneath that? So drop deeper.
I'd say, I don't know if happiness is the word, but knowing that I'll be along with being healthy, along comes vitality, along comes happiness, knowing that I'll be around longer for my family.
Cool. So there we go. Now we're tapping into the deeper. So by being around longer for your family, really tap into, by having that, what would that allow you to have underneath that?
It comes down to happiness.
Happiness. Cool. So now here's the hack with this question and this process is if you can practice feeling the feeling that you would have once you accomplish the goal, you're going to influence your own behaviors. You're going to influence your own actions. You're going to influence the field around you to bring in the resources and take the actions required to get there. So one of the keys to achieving our goals is not to just write it down, but also to practice feeling the feeling we would have when we achieve the goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Awesome.
I think one of the big things that I've taken out of this, though, is just I think I've had this big goal for so long that to be able to manage it, to break it down into smaller goals where I may even have to take this to a daily level of, hey, I just need to get through noon at doing my diet till noon, and then from noon to 8 o'clock at night, I just have to get through my diet and just take it, as opposed to looking at this huge goal of 80 pounds over a year. It just becomes, like you said, overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, smart. Definitely a daily action plan will help. And you probably know this. Also, having the mindset of not going on a diet, but like having, your new eating patterns become just part of your lifestyle.
Right.
Cool.
Yep.
Thanks, brother. Nice to reconnect with you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy New Year.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. So we're going to wrap up our call pretty much right on time here. We're 1 minute over, but hopefully you took away at least one thing that can help you begin to end the self-sabotage process and also crush your goals in 2019. We're going to wrap this up. And now that you are already opted in for the No Bullshit online training series, you'll be getting reminders of future calls. So we'll do a monthly webinar like this. You'll get videos and podcasts, interviews, things like that, all centered around helping you eliminate and extract the bullshit from your internal world that keeps you away from having everything that you desire. In the meantime, guys, step by step, day by day, set up small daily action plans. And there's so many things I want to say, but if there's another thing that you can add is at the end of the day, extract the wins from your day. Because again, if you're focused on what went well, by extracting the wins and listing them out, your brain is going to find more ways to win. So one of the things that we do in our 5-part accountability system is at the end of the day, what are the 3 wins that came from the day? Because so many people at the end of the day, they look at what they didn't accomplish or what they could have accomplished or what they should have done. And it immediately puts them in a lack mindset. But if you can go to bed in that abundance mindset of, look at what I did, look at what I accomplished, even small wins will support your brain in looking for more wins. All right. So hope this helps. Keep an eye out for more communication from us as far as next training and podcasts and interviews. And then if you are interested in attending Greatest Year of Your Life, we have some golden tickets left. And this gets you in for 90% off the ticket price. And that's the website here. In fact, I'll just, let me just do this. So right now, if you go to GYOYL.com, the current ticket price is $14.97. You do get a free ticket with that. So if you think of somebody you want to go with, you can do that. Or you can go to gcspeaker.com/gold and get a ticket for 90% off. So let me just pop a link in here real quick. Golden ticket link is right there. So click it. And then, if you haven't heard about our event, we do it every year in January. It's, I call it Colorado's premier transformational experience and event, because people who come through this event just have these massive breakthroughs and transformations, and then they'll go out and have the greatest year of their life. And it really does set you up to win. So if you want to learn more about how you can get yourself a ticket, click the gcspeaker.com/gold link. And then you can learn more about the event and all of that good stuff. But in the meantime, Happy New Year, guys. I wish you all the best and looking forward to seeing you on future training calls. Have an amazing day. Talk to you soon, guys. Go rock the year. Go crush it this year, guys. See ya.